What's going on, Ghost and Ghouls? It's Montavious back with the Intercrypt, and today we are joined by a legend in his own right, Mr. Robert Bravo. Man, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm tired. I've been working like a madman, but I'm excited to jump on here. We've been talking about this since we worked together on Dead Place, so
Hmm.
it's nice to sit back and have a chat.
Yes, sir. No, I'm glad that we could definitely sit down and make this work, man. I know you've been crazy busy, but for all the people out there who may not know who you are or what you do, can you give us, a description of what type of
Yeah,
things you're into?
yeah. My name is Robert Bravo. I'm a producer and a special effects artist in the film industry. I started producing when I was 21, and we were making features for around 30 grand. That sounds like a lot of money until you try to make a movie. And one day I had this really fun horror film hit my desk, and we couldn't afford to hire a special effects artist. So I learned what I needed to do that one movie. And it turned out I love doing special effects. I kind of hated producing, and special effects has been my home ever since. I still put the producer hat on from time to time, but this stuff is home. I make all this craziness and do all the blood and gore, and yeah, so that's me and what I do.
Dude, that is amazing. So, like, when did you know that special effects is what you wanted to do? Like, was there like, a childhood movie that just kind of pulled you in?
I mean, there's definitely a couple of movies that I responded to. I grew up with the weird 80s movies like Labyrinth with David Bowie with all the weird puppets and, The Thing, American Werewolf in London. Um, but I didn't necessarily know I was gonna do this. I didn't know this was going to be my home. I didn't even really try. I went to school for food. I went to Cordon Bleu, and I met Jason Horton, who's actually the director on A Hard Place, which is one of the films we just wrapped in Ohio. I've known him for years, and he actually is the guy who pushed me into the industry. Very early on, he saw something in me and kind of I spoke the language of entertainment a little bit. So on our first movie, I did like some permits and some locations, and then the second movie I did a little bit more, and by the third time we were making features together, and I was a producer. And then, like I said, I found special effects out of necessity because we couldn't afford to hire a guy. And the first one I did was on a film called Monsters in the Woods, and we had Tom Devlin on that, so we had a real special effects artist on that too.
Mm.
Uh, but through that, I kind of realized like this is an art form that's really cool, and I really enjoy being part of it. And I wasn't so much loving producing, and kind of went in a more artistic direction after that. It
See,
certainly, yeah, it took a while before I was making big things though. Like there's a lot of years of zombies.
I have to say though, I feel like, when it comes to special effects, it takes a certain someone, like, you know, you're in charge of basically making the film feel a certain way, to feel a certain way, but it also has to look a certain way. So how do you overcome, like, in a battle? Let's say like you're on a project with a director's like, hey, I want this monster or this to be like this. How do you make that come to life without doing too much or doing too little?
I mean, the main thing is communication. And it's not so much just and sometimes, draw me, I don't care if it's a bad picture, draw me a picture, draw me a stick figure of what you want your thing to look like. And then I can go from there, and I'll do sketches, or I'll do something on digital art and render something out and get an idea. And honestly, a lot of it still stays organic. Like these suits back there, when I make them, I have an idea of what they look like. But if they're cheap, they kind of end up looking how they look. Like these things are made for a price. It's not ideal. Like generally speaking, in the perfect world, a suit would cost 20 grand to make. These don't. So you kind of get uh, it's a mix of what the universe will allow you to do with the assets you have, and just communicating with them, and also reading the script, because there was one not too long ago where the director said, I want this to be a kind of reptile creature with four arms or four legs and no arms. And there was a scene in the script where the creature picks the guy up by the throat with his hand. And so in that
Yeah,
design, he wanted me to make a creature with no hands that had scripted stuff. And so, it's read the, read what's on the page, have communication, and
mm,
find a happy medium in the middle. And hopefully, I've never really had someone fight me. And generally speaking, I'm an employee. I'm there to make what you want, what the guy who hires me wants. So I'll voice my opinions, but end of the day, unless I think it's really, really bad and gonna hurt the movie, I'll just do what they ask. If they want a big old, Funko Pop looking silly guy, then that's what I'll deliver. And as long as they're happy with it, I'm happy. I very rarely, walk away with the director saying this isn't anything like what I want, or it'll be this isn't what I saw, but I love it. So
okay, okay. No, I like that. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to make something, but the director or the producer, or whatever, just can't see it just yet, and then they give you the freedom to continue to keep going, and then they're happy at the end of the day with what you created with the freedom of you doing whatever you needed.
the biggest fear, there's two things that's really scary for a director producer when it comes to special effects. The first one is a lot of this stuff looks awful right up until it looks great. So like, and you've been on set before, so like sometimes you'll see these makeups happening, and you're just, please don't let the writer or the director come in here yet. Give me 10 more minutes. Let me fix this thing or paint this thing. And so you're if someone, it's kind of like looking at a rough cut. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but when you see something that's unfinished and it looks very, very rough, that's when they get scared because that's what they think they're gonna get.
Mm,
Um, and you can always see the relief in their eyes when they see if they saw the early stage of a rough makeup and then they see it completed and it's all right, it looks good, it's fine. And then the other thing that's difficult for some people, and this is why communication is important, is a lot of the times, especially when you're working on stuff at a budget, it's only going to look good from one conceivable angle. Because, like, let's say you're using forced perspective, so it's a guy getting his chest ripped open. Um, so there's a fake torso sitting on top of the guy, and it's his real
mm,
head and his real arms, and there's a fake thing on top of him. If you shoot that from the sides, it's going to look ridiculous because then he's going to look like he's got a big thing, like a big pillow sitting on top of him. It can only be shot from the front. Um, and so, sometimes you'll get that director who sees a light and he's like, "Oh no, we have to shoot it from 3/4 this way." It's going to look awful. Um, that's really when it's tough. And generally speaking, um, you know, storytellers want their movies to look good. If you say like this is the only way it's going to work, usually they'll listen. Sometimes you'll get someone who's just like, I don't care, this is how I want it, figure it out. And that's when you kind of have to sit back and look for solutions, and maybe you don't get the shot that the special effects artist envisioned.
mm.
But at the end of the day, I'm not the one unless I am the producer. I'm not the one fronting the bill, and it's about what they want, what makes them happy. It's
Yeah,
a communal team, and everyone ideally is happy at the end. But really, it's about telling their story their way. So if they want it that way, even if I don't think it's going to look as good or work as well,
you just do it.
I just do it. I'll tell them like, are you 100% sure? Because I've done this before, and I can tell you it's gonna be better this way. Um, but I'm an employee, and it's my job in the end to give them what they want. And I'm not perfect, like I sometimes they're right. Sometimes I'll go back afterwards and say the gag didn't work the way I envisioned it, but the shot was beautiful. It was worth you doing it your way. And I will always, take off my hat to it. If someone is good and they have the vision and their vision is right, I'll acknowledge it every time.
All right. See, now there you go. And correct me if I'm wrong. You're self-taught. Like, you did you go to school for
I
any of
went to
this?
school after I taught at a school.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so no, I was self-taught for a lot of years. Um, and as I progress, this is complicated and a little divisive when I say this. In there's a special, same as there's a horror community, there's a special effects community. There's a grip community and everything else. Um, I have the mindset when it comes to executing a special effect or a gag that if something is done, if it looks good and it's safe, then that's the right way to do it. There are a lot of people who feel the right way to do it is Dick Smith's way. And Dick Smith is considered the godfather of special effects. He was the guy who did The Exorcist.
Okay.
He's just one of the best known special effects artists, history and living, breathing. He's one of the icons.
Mm.
But I get really, really frustrated because I don't like necessarily the idea that if you're not doing it his way, you're not doing it the right way. That's not how Dick would do it. So early on, when I was more self-taught, I'd run into that a lot. Where even though the scene worked, things worked, it wasn't the right way. So over the course of time, I started pushing away from doing, the freehand artist stuff and started trying to follow the rules a little bit more. And in truth, you can see the difference. Like there's the things that have been done the same way since the 70s, they've been done the same way because they work. And you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. But there's also still stuff that's my way that I'll do my way and will always do my way because I'm stubborn and I like my way better. So I'm a middle ground. I think though it's important, especially if you're working on low budget stuff, to again, safety is the number one thing. Like as long that's the first thing that's important. But you get so busy trying to do something the classically proper way
Mm.
that you can't do that on a no budget film set. Like the film I just did in Ohio, sorry, it's beeping at me.
No, you're
Um, we had gags that in the perfect world we would have had 9 hours to execute, and we didn't. You know what I mean? Like we would have 20 minutes to do something that ideally you'd have an hour for, and if you're not able to flow with it, you'll fail. So I still think it's important to be able to maintain a looseness with execution.
no, for sure.
How
No,
about
I totally get that. And so just for the people who's going to be watching, the movie that you're referring to just a minute ago in Ohio is A Hard Place,
that's
which is
correct.
written by Jason Horton, and you're a producer on that as well, and you do the special effects.
Yeah.
So if we could talk a little about that, man, and just the set itself, because I know looking online, you guys had to face some harsh conditions.
It was a gauntlet. It was a gauntlet.
So
Well, first of all,
can you tell us like how was that like working in the cold, the snow, and
yeah,
trying to keep everybody on task and everybody focused and dialed in?
yeah. Well, it was incredibly ambitious to begin with. It's a creature feature. Trying to think of what can and can't. So ultimately, imagine like an underworld style war between two creatures. There's these kind of plant creatures and these reptilian creatures. Done on a budget of less than $150,000, and that's still a big number, especially
Yeah.
for that's not nothing, and I don't want to downplay that. But in a world where normally a suit costs $20,000, $5 to $20,000, we have 6 or 7 plant creature suits, and I don't know how many reptile creature suits. And then you have an unexpected snowstorm. So it wasn't really supposed to storm. All of the weather reports were saying that we might get a little flurry, like a little dusting the day we arrive. And then for the most part, it was supposed to be in the 30s and the 40s. Well, the day we get there, it's 11 degrees and they have an unplanned storm, and we got 6 inches of snow. And it was crazy because gear started failing. So when you're focusing, there's these little focus wheels that turn, and you can do it remotely. So the camera doesn't have to be, the focus puller doesn't have to be attached to the camera. And so he would spin the focus, and the actual focus on the camera would move slower because the amount of time the cold was actually slowing the gear down. And then I was having gear fail myself. We had these blood rigs that are they're for simulating gunfire, and I was using what's called a Rodriguez, which is basically it looks like a little jetpack, and it's filled with air, and it explosively decompresses, so that you get a really quick non-explosive squib. And the batteries for all those kept dying. So the big thing was just you have to stay creative because like we had all these nice, easy, smooth, planned out things that aren't going to take any time. We get there, it all starts failing, and it's like, well, first of all, we have to figure out how to still get everything we need, which we did. It still has to look good, and no one can see you sweat because if they see the special effects artist, the director, the producer sweat, then they think things are wrong. Um, so everyone's got to stay level headed and good, solve the problems without anyone knowing, and keep the atmosphere warm and fuzzy because it's a hard day. You're working 12 to 18-hour days, and you're trudging up and down. We were in a big giant horse farm, and so we're going down these hills and all that stuff and bringing gear, and it's difficult. So you got to keep the warm and fuzzies and pleasant and all that. And then also we had all the Indiegogo cats, and I think more than on a lot of projects, we were treating them as more as actors than as tourists. Because I think a lot of the time, you come in, you do your hour-long thing, and you wave at the name actor who's on set and you book out. And these guys were there the full day and stuck in holding all day like a normal actor.
They got the good experience.
Yeah, they got the whole experience. And then afterwards, we were like, I hope they got what they expected. And I've talked to most of them. I think pretty much everyone is happy with what they get. But at the time, you're like, this is actually kind of hard. Uh, Everyone who
So,
came down was warriors, though, and they brought it, man. Like, we did some creature stuff around a table, and every single one of the cats that came down, they had fun. They were big. They got bloody. So yeah, it was a good group of people, and the whole that statement goes for the entire team. Like this was not an easy show, and every single person who was on brought it, had good attitude, did their job, made it look good. So one of the prettiest things I've ever been involved in shooting. Like I've gotten to see probably 90%. I was actually staying in the same house as the camera department was
mm,
because we bought a bunch of Airbnbs. And so every night I'd get to sit over his shoulder and look over at some of the dailies. It's like, oh, fuck, that actually works. That looks good. So I'm sorry, I just swore. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
You're fine. No, but that's awesome. Like, so how do you, as a producer in special effects, like when you have challenges like weather, right? That you didn't plan for, essentially. Like, how do you stay unbothered by that?
I mean, I luckily for me, like we had a good team of producers, and I really was able to be the special effects artist. Like I didn't have to worry too much about producer problems,
Hmm.
um, which was really, really nice for me because I had enough on my plate as on special effects. Um, but really, it's just you don't have the opportunity to be bothered by it. Like if you let yourself be bothered by it, you're gonna fail.
Hmm.
So it's just, what's the old saying? You put your big boy pants on and deal with it. So it's like, you don't let anyone see you sweat. If something is scheduled wrong, you figure out how to work with what you have. If you planned on, doing an exterior scene, but it's raining, well, you either have to find a way to get that exterior scene or you find a way to move it and you get an interior scene. There's a very, I don't know if it's an old saying, I've known it forever, but producing is not a hard job. It's 100,000 easy jobs. So, don't look at it as one big scary thing. Look at it as a whole bunch of small tasks that are all manageable.
Hmm.
And by that outlook, if stuff is going wrong, whether it's stuff that you can control or you can't control, pivot to one of the other 80 things that still needs to get done. And then you can worry about whatever the big thing is later on. So, we had weather that meant we couldn't go outside. Well, we also had all the actors and a bunch of stuff that we could shoot interiors. So then some of the outside stuff gets moved to Wednesday and some of the interiors gets moved to Monday. And You just have to, all of our actors were incredible and off book already. So everyone was able to flow with stuff. Um, and it's just stay calm and try to do it. And it gets messy. I'm not going to say that, when you're moving stuff around, did we shoot that on Tuesday? And, it doesn't matter how organized you are. You have to worry, did this slip through a crack? Did we get that? Did we get that angle? Is the lighting different today than it was last week? Um, but, you stay disciplined and positive, and, it helps when you have some of the most amazing people in the industry working with you. I
Yeah.
was a very, very small part as far as the onset producing is concerned, because we had, you know, Kevin and Ashley, who are actors on it. Um, they were both kicking ass as producers. They were getting there hours early and going over schedule. Um, Sean was one of our producers, and he was literally in there doing paperwork from dawn till dusk every day. Jason wasn't supposed to be a producer, but our director is awesome, and he's doing the hard work too. So, when there's a team of 6 or 7 really capable people in there, problems aren't so scary as when you have to figure out how to do them on your own.
Nice. So it's all about the team that you have with you to conquer these obstacles, man. That's awesome. I know I should be seeing you here soon for I think you guys got 90% of the movie completed. And it's just like the last little 10% of like the movie in a movie
Yeah.
that's gonna be filming in LA. So I'm happy to be a zombie in that. I can't wait. But one project that we did work on together, or that you really worked on, I kind of just showed up,
Yeah.
with the Dead Place. So man, that was my first time, meeting you and seeing you. And I gotta say, can you say what is in your blood formula, man? Like, cause that was the worst. It took me like 2 to 3 days to get this stuff out of my hair,
Oh
man.
no,
Yeah,
you're
no,
the
but no,
only, you're the
it,
first person
it
I've
looks
had have issues. Usually,
it looked fantastic. It was amazing. It was just like, I'm like, is this ever gonna stop? And I loved every bit of it, but I'm
yeah.
like, man, what is in this?
Oh no, it's sugar. There's sugar base in it. I can't say what it is. Usually, the reason I use it is because it comes clean so well.
Mhm.
Um, but not for everyone apparently. But no, my blood is very, very specific. I know you're a horror cat, so you've very likely heard a lot of people use corn syrup in their blood or
Yes.
Caro. I don't use Caro, and the reason for that is, do you know what a Jolly Rancher is?
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So a Jolly Rancher is just heated, cooked corn syrup,
Mhm.
right? And flavor and whatnot. But anyway, so if you cover a person in corn syrup and you stick them in front of a 2K or a very hot film light, then that corn syrup in the blood will solidify. And I've seen actors where they've got their arms down, they go like this, and they rip all the skin on their arms because they're covered in blood. Um, and so that's why I replaced the corn syrup in mine. And also, I don't like the way it looks as much.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm greedy about, I don't share that recipe. It took me 9 years. But it's safe, and for the most people don't have too bad of an issue with it. I feel really bad it got stuck in your hair so long. Was it
No,
was
no,
it
you're good.
thick and goopy, or
No, you're good. I enjoyed every bit of it, man. Like I'm in there, like, oh God, this is still coming out. No, but it was
it's the
amazing. I had
commitment?
such a great time,
Yeah.
And so speaking to that, I know, you got to work with David Howard Thornton, aka Art the Clown, for those who don't know. So how was that experience working with what people say now is he is a new horror icon? So how was that working with him?
Well, first of all, you can the minute you meet him, you can tell why he's going to be a horror icon or why he became a horror icon. He is one of the most professional cats I've ever met. He's a great energy on set. He likes his fans, and he has fun. Like the biggest tragedy in the world to me is when people start looking at this as a job. And it is, don't get me wrong, you're working 12 to 18-hour days. It's hard. But it's like people would give everything to do what we do for, an hour, and,
Yeah.
and get paid to do it. It's really fun. For a special effects artist, it's magic. I get to draw a picture of a dragon and then see my dragon breathing a week later. Like, that's cool. And so it's really great that he is so receptive to everything. I was terrified working with him because the appliance we had for him sucked. Like it looked cool, but it was very, very heavy. It was made out of Platsil 10, which is the same silicone that they had Dougie in for Shape of Water. It's a, a
Mm,
prosthetic adhesive or prosthetic silicone. Um, I don't know what I can say about specifically what he looks like now that I'm thinking about it. But essentially, he had um, a 5 pound piece of rubber glued to his face. And, like a lot of actors, that would have been too much for them to handle. They would have complained, it would have hurt, it would have sucked. And I'm sure it did. He never once complained. The second time we put it on, I redesigned the thing so we were able to put straps on different places. Um, but even if I didn't, he wouldn't have complained. He would have been perfectly happy doing it. And he didn't let it affect his performance at all. He brought it, man, and he looked really good. He made me look good. So yeah, it's really I have this mindset when it comes to actors because I've gotten to watch other people make the climb from regular person to quote unquote name, and
mhm,
you kind of tell the ones that are gonna do it. I worked with him after Terrifier too, so obviously he was already established. Um, but it's you can see the people because they're not the ones who are trying to be celebrities. They're the ones who are trying to be good actors and the ones who care about what they're doing. And
mhm.
all that other stuff comes as a response to them just being that good. Um, and I think he 100% is an example of that. He didn't become quote or recognizable because of chasing stars. He became recognizable because he brings it. And like when they shoot those Terrifier movies, it's hard. They're in freezing cold warehouses in New York in winter in concrete, banging around, getting slammed
Mhm.
into walls. Hey, he's a damn warrior. Uh,
For sure, it testifies to how good of an actor he is. But just you being there and being a part of the Dead Place, which I definitely think is gonna be captivating to horror fans out there because they actually get to hear David,
yeah,
speak and all that good stuff. But you essentially brought this character to life. So not only will he be known for Art the Clown, but he'll be known for the Dead Place as well. And you're behind that. So
yeah.
I mean, how does that feel knowing that the world soon will see something you created?
But that's very exciting. Um, and it's very cool because both Michael and David are comfortable sharing their character. Michael Pickle is the director writer. Because some
Yes.
people, my relationship with a character is really based on what the actor will let me have. Like some actors say, "This is me. This is you're putting it on me, but this is my character." Other characters are like, "We built this thing together. We breathed life into this together." Um, and I think the new kid is the character we're talking about, what he's titled. And I think first it's Michael's baby, and then it's David, and then it's me because I was only I was the physical part of it maybe, but you know like I didn't really design it. Me and Michael sat down and worked back and forth, but he already had a very clear idea of what he looked like. But it is very, very exciting to. It's kind of the first time you see your work on the big screen, but
Mhm.
magnified. Like when you see your work in a magazine or something like that, it's exciting and it's gratifying and it tells you that you have um, not value, but like you kind of made it a little bit. Um, and like recently I've started getting. I'm really bad at going to conventions and like groups and being under 1 million people. About to get better at that. But I'm getting invitations to do like conventions and stuff, and that's really really cool because all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, you've been doing this for 20 years, and the quality of your stuff is really good." And at least they tell me that I have the world's most worst case of imposter syndrome. Um, but it's exciting, and it's exciting to be part of the next generation's horror icons. And I would love to be. I don't, you never know what's gonna take. You never know if the new kid is gonna take or
Yeah.
um, Alexa was a villain in another thing I worked on, and it's always exciting when someone grabs on to that one entity or that one thing, and you get to kind of get taken along for the ride. Some people they live that their whole lives. Like David will be able to be Art the Clown,
for the rest
50
of my life.
years from now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I, I kind of rolled that question off a little bit because I have a hard time taking ownership of it because in the end I was such a small part. I was a big part artistically, but all I was other people's paintbrushes. I gave David the tool for the performance, and I gave Michael the tool for the visual aspect. But he designed the character and what he looked like. I just made what he drew.
Yeah. No, I mean, you still definitely had your hand in that, man. So congratulations to you on that and hope nothing but success. So, kind of just wrapping things up, I know what's down the pipeline for you? Like there's any new projects you got coming out, anything you want to share with the fans out there?
Yeah, I think there's two. I'll briefly touch on Deadly Endings, which is an Indiegogo, which is on Indiegogo right now. And that's got Felissa Rose and a handful of other names and horror personalities. Um, and I'll be running special effects on that in July, no June. But the one I don't want to say more excited. That's not fair. The one that's more personally close to me um, is we're calling it Horror at the Cult. So over the last year, I've been helping a friend of mine establish an event space in downtown Los Angeles. It's an 8,000 square foot theater space. It used to be the Independent Theater. Um, and since, before Dead Place, I can't talk. Before Dead Place, I was part of the film community, but I wasn't really part of the horror community. And I didn't know a lot of you cats. And since I've started meeting the people who participate in the Indiegogos and meeting the people who go to the cons, I've really started to enjoy this community, this horror themed community. And
Mhm.
so we're going to do a slate of horror themed events that I'm going to host. We're going to do an Indiegogo to raise some funds for it, but it'll be things like celebrity cinema where, we'll get a name actor to come down. Like maybe we'll get Lynn Laurie to come down and do oh God, I'm having a brain fart. It wasn't the Crazies. We talked about it. I'm bad. I don't want to say the wrong movie. I don't know, for example, but let's say like a Felissa Rose to come down and do Sleepaway Camp.
Mm.
Things like that. And then you can do a Q&A afterwards. Scanners. Sorry.
No,
Um,
you're good.
anyway, so there's that. I want to host a horror convention. It's going to be a small, intimate horror convention. It's just 8,000 square feet, so it's not going to be, the Galleria or a big giant convention center. But I want to get something where we have fewer people and you can actually spend time with the people who are there. Because if you don't have 5,000 people in line, each person can get, more than 10 seconds to get an autograph signed and a hi, how you doing, kick on off. So that I think is my big one. I'm going to be launching an Indiegogo for that. Hopefully Friday. I don't know when this goes up, but so it may already be up when the world sees it. And that's probably the most exciting thing I'm working on right now. But also because unlike a lot of these other things that are, I'm a hired gun on. That's my baby,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to make something cool and bring everyone in also because I think that's something that a lot of people will enjoy.
Man, that is refreshing to hear you talk about, just the horror community, in general, man. And I wish you nothing but success and good luck on your endeavors, man. I'm very excited to see, your projects coming up and then especially horror at the cult. That I may make the travel to that. I promise you, I will come out there for you guys as first, whatever you do. I will definitely be there for that, man, because I love to support people. So if somebody wants to get in contact with you for a project or just want to ask questions about special effects, where can people go to reach you?
I'm on all the I'm not on all the social medias actually. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Robert M. Bravo. I think on Facebook I'm just Robert Bravo. You'll know me when you found me. Like it's pretty obvious. It's special effects and gore and stuff like that. You can reach out direct over email. I'm Robert at bravofx.net, and my website is bravofx.net. That's BRAVOFX.net, not the word.
All right, man. So just in closing, anything you want to say out there to just horror fans in general or people that's looking to get into special effects?
Um, for people looking to get into special effects, filter everything with common sense. I see a lot of people, especially young people, doing dangerous stuff. If it doesn't seem safe, don't do it. I know that's boring and not fun, but I've seen too many people get hurt. In the world of horror, you guys are all amazing. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of this community, and I'm so thankful that you guys watch these silly stories I get to make and be involved in. And you guys let me do what I love to do for a living because I couldn't do it if you guys didn't watch the movies. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, Mr. Bravo, it has been a pleasure just sitting and chatting with you, man. So this is where we sign off, and we'll catch you in the next one.
That was